it's not there to change the infrastructure of schools. It is also
so
not
when you
there.
say administrative accountability, can you just explain, like, what do you mean? Is it the governing bodies, or is it the teachers have control and the principals? Because a lot of people then think that it's the teacher that has control. A lot of the videos even that were trending were like, a teacher could keep your kid. I seen a video where it said a teacher could keep your kid, and you wouldn't have control of that. Welcome to Slice of Life. Atisha Ghela, our legal eagle. This is Slice of Life, where we discuss politics, we discuss motherhood, otherhood, and so much more. And so hence we say Slice of Life. And today, before we start anything, we're going to introduce you. Atisha Ghela, tell us, who are you?
Good morning, Fatima. Thank you for having me this morning. A lovely, beautiful Sunday morning in Durban. So I am Atisha Ghela. I'm an attorney, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and I'm a sole practitioner at the firm Atisha Ghela and Associates.
Amazing.
It's a all-woman-based law firm in Umhlanga, and I've been an admitted attorney for 21 years, and I've been practicing for my own account for 11 years, and it's an all-woman-based practice.
I love that. I love that it's an all-woman-based practice.
Thank you.
Yes.
And the important part of that was that I saw that the need for leadership in the legal sphere was not just about getting the legal knowledge or the legal expertise or legal training. I saw the opportunity of empowering a woman in the workplace.
Love it.
Because it made her not just a professional, but also that she got the skills to be a better woman, a better mom, a better, community person.
Love it. So there you have it, listeners. This is Atisha Ghela, and she's our legal eagle today. And we're slicing right into this conversation because we know that with a podcast, you guys, after 20 minutes, just die down and really don't want to listen any further. So we're just going to go into our key issues. And today we're discussing the big B, which has been trending on social media, which is the Bella Bill. So I'm not sure how's it been in the legal world, but for us as moms that are, busy with our kids and obviously scroll through social media and then become mom frenzy, we've just been seeing Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all about the Bella Bill. So tell us, Atisha, what is the Bella Bill? What is the frenzy about?
Okay, the Bella Bill, as much as it sounds like something that's very basic, Bella Bill sounds something soft and gentle.
Yes.
Completely not what it is.
Right.
So the Bella Bill, which actually means the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill.
Right.
This is a new piece of legislation that's floating around for the sole purpose of amending the South African Schools Act.
Right.
Now, as you would know, that the South African Schools Act is what regulates independent and public schools at a large basis. Now, the Bella Bill is seeking now to amend that Schools Act in various forms. Now, I think the misleading kind of opinions out there is that the Bella Bill is this dark, draconian kind of legislation which is going to usurp all the rights of learners, teachers, student governing bodies, and also parents more particularly. And that's where the fear is.
Yes. I think me, forgetting everything, just as a parent, I was definitely concerned. And I also put out videos like Stop the Bella Bill and all of that because I was really concerned. My key concerns were curriculum, homeschooling. We were not allowed to teach religion. In any sphere, whether it's Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, anything. It was like all the mums coming together with force because they felt like, we should be given this choice. We just came out of apartheid and now we're not given this choice of this. And also I find like with, as you said, legislation, honestly, like South Africa, do they even stick to these things like really?
Okay. I hear those fears, and I think that, from a layman's perspective, if I was in your shoes, I'd kind of have that kind of fear or this understanding of what could it possibly have for my family unit, for my children. Now, the Bella Bill has been created for the sake of not changing curriculum. I think that's something that needs to be
key.
Really, really resonated amongst your listeners, is that the curriculum-based ideas of the Schools Act is not what the Bella Bill is trying to achieve. The Bella Bill is basically there to kind of create administrative accountability.
Right.
It's not there to change the infrastructure of schools. It is also
so
not
when you
there.
say administrative accountability, can you just explain, like, what do you mean? Is it the governing bodies, or is it the teachers have control and the principals? Because a lot of people then
Yes.
think that it's
Sure.
the teacher that has control. A lot of the videos even that were trending were like, a teacher could keep your kid. I seen a video where it said a teacher could keep your kid, and you wouldn't have control of that. So is that true?
So let's have a look at what are the different things that the student governing bodies actually have control over. So your school governing bodies are made up of your parents,
Yes.
your educators, and sometimes also members of the community that can have an impact on the day-to-day runnings of a public school. Now, what happens currently is that it's an autonomy in the sense
Right.
that different school bodies have different policies
Right.
per school. And what the Bella Bill is trying to achieve, and when I say accountability, it's saying to those student governing bodies, you can create policy, you can create kind of codes of conduct,
Yes.
but we want to know that what you're doing is fair and is reasonable in terms of the wider scheme of things. Ultimately, what the bill is trying to achieve is upholding the constitutional right and the interest of children in terms of the Children's Act. So if I could give you an example, so a big kind of factor was that language was an issue.
Right.
So what the Bella Bill is trying to say is that school governing bodies must create their own language policy. And so they give that actual freedom to create the language policy. And then it goes on to further say that once that language policy has been created, please submit that to the head of department of education, and the head of department will then approve that policy. So it's not like top-down approach, it's bottom-up.
So what are they saying is that English is still first language, and then the two second languages, which is Afrikaans and Zulu, is not.
So what they're saying is that you are able to obviously choose the two official languages
Yes.
of the country. We have 11 languages.
Yes.
And that we must actually then have the ability to include one of the languages that are included in the language policy, which
Correct.
takes care of the environment that the child's in.
I think that's fair.
For an
Yes.
example, like a child in a Zulu-speaking environment, for example, it wouldn't make sense or be in the interest of the child to be taught in Afrikaans.
No.
So the mother tongue becomes important in the sense that the policy wording has to be appropriate to the sense that it's inclusive of the jurisdiction that the
Yes.
school's in, the community at large, that's the type of children that are in. So you can't force a language that is not going to be part of the policy. In the same breath, on the other scale, is that people will want to also honor their mother tongue.
Yes.
If you want to
Agreed.
teach your child
Yeah.
in Urdu, or if you want to teach your child in Afrikaans or Zulu,
Yeah.
the policy must then speak to that because you've got factors around it that
Yes.
speak to why that becomes important.
Yes. I think that makes so much of sense now that you've explained it. I'm feeling a lot calmer already. Not coming out hands out, like, which also leads to, like, a lot of social media can be misleading.
Yes.
So it's this is so, like, poof moment for me. Like,
Yes.
sometimes as moms we tend to, like, just believe everything that we see. Hence, I'm so happy to have you here so that you can enlighten all us moms and young moms
Yes.
and older moms and all of that about this Bella Bill.
Yes.
Because honestly, if you open Facebook, there's like books, there's like groups all about the Bella Bill. There's groups on WhatsApp. I haven't really seen. I've seen some legal eagles. I hope you don't mind me calling you that.
It's fine.
I was a huge
I think
Suits follower.
we actually used to being called eagles.
Yeah, and you can see I'm a huge Suits fan. So yeah,
And maybe it's also like that we are meant to soar high.
correct,
Right?
correct. But yes, I think that it's important to get a legal perspective because that way you could group what's being said intellectually,
Yeah.
with correct facts.
Yes. And the other thing I think, which is one of the very, very, very scary kind of element that's been added, is that now grade R is going to be compulsory.
Yes.
Now, remember I said earlier when we were chatting prior to this, that sometimes legislation which is in black and white, which makes for very good reading, is very good in terms of its purpose that it's trying to achieve. but we must also look at the practical impact of it. Yes, we want to create wonderful legislation which is going to be very progressive in its nature. We want to align ourselves with global standards of education, medical care, and all of the other elements that keep our country holistic and running.
But what is your opinion on the whole grade R thing? I know that you mentioned it to me prior to this, which we will explain to our listeners. We had such a lovely convo. But for me personally, and you can correct me, I just feel like sometimes the impoverished areas, there's pros and cons to it. For example, in an impoverished area where they can't afford grade R, they tend to not send their kids in grade R. But then you were explaining to me about then the language barrier as well as I've read it up, that when it comes to grade 4, what they've found is that kids are now unable to read and write as before. So what's your opinion on that? Do you feel like it makes sense doing it? Or how do you think government is going to really go through with this?
Okay, Fatiba, let me ask you a question. You've got little ones, I've got little ones.
Yes,
When was the first time they got hold or actually got exposed to some sort of scholastic kind of environment?
So for me, I'm all about early learning through play. All of my kids have started early because I've seen the benefit of it, and I get that. I'm just saying I've also have had conversations, for example, with those that cannot afford it, education. And honestly, they could care less. They would be like, for me, the key thing is bread and butter on my table. I'm being serious. Bread and butter on my table. Whether my kid goes grade R, grade 1, they could care less. They'd be like, you know what? As long as my child has food for that month, I don't care. Whether they could talk, I don't care. Because they're living basically day to day. So their fear now is they're going to be jailed because their kid is not in grade R.
Okay, let's just demystify what this entire debate is around grade 6. So to explain from an introductory point of view, what it means is that Bella's saying that if you have a child that's turning 6 in that year,
yes,
he or she has to be enrolled in grade 6. He or she then will start grade R
6,
as they will be turning 6 in that year.
Yes.
So as opposed to previously where the child turned 7 in that year, if they are going to be turning 6 in that year, they will have to be enrolled in grade R. Grade R will then mean that the child will then have full access to a school environment, uniform, teacher, entire academic kind of curriculum, and he will then be a fully fledged child who's starting his scholastic career at grade R. The difficulty I feel with what this then imposes upon public schools, again, I've said, works lovely on paper. We want to see.
Agreed.
We want to have. We all accept that we're becoming progressive. Our children are becoming a little bit more aware and more emotionally intelligent or academically intelligent at a younger age, and therefore they should be exposed to education. And if you actually think about it, it's a good thing that my kid gets to go to school at an early age. Good for them. They have an early start, and it can only benefit them. Let's look at a majority of where our schools are sitting at our public schools. We are now saying that it's compulsory now to have grade R. Do we have the infrastructure for extra classes?
Absolutely not.
Do we have the revenue to train educators to cater for grade R? Do we have the necessary, kind of apparatus in schools, the play areas, which are geared for these little ones? Do we have enough supervision at school to monitor these children during breaks? Essentially, they're still quite young. And they might not be emotionally mature enough to be able to manage themselves like maybe a 7-year-old would.
Yes.
But we simply don't have the infrastructure in place to make this something that could happen immediately.
I mean, we know our government. Let's not walk on eggshells. For me personally, I mean, I know you're an officer of the law. You can't just... For me, I mean, I can freely speak. So now I'm going to freely speak and say...
Freedom of speech is your bill of rights.
Yes. I mean, I'm not going to walk around eggshells. We've seen MPOs from overseas come and say, well, South African children are walking barefoot to school. To be honest with you, let me just put you into the picture. A group of us ladies, we call ourselves sandwich queens. So we make sandwiches every week on a Wednesday. It's just a basic peanut butter and jam. Supply a few government schools with it. Do you know some of these kids save that lunch so they can eat it up? So where's the government?
Absolutely.
Where is the government? And yet they have these beautiful legislations that, for a fact, I don't see it going through. I really, really don't. So hence, I'm so like passionate about it.
Yes.
I'm so glad that we've spoken about it, and I'm really glad that you've said curriculum, because
Yes.
I think that is going to be like wow for the moms, because they're going to be like at ease. Another question which I've seen so many, I just put a feeler out there on our Slice of Life Instagram page about the Bella Bill and whatever, and 90% of the moms were like homeschooling, because a lot of the moms that are homeschooling felt like attacked. They felt like, they're not going to be allowed to teach at their pace, or they're not going to be allowed to teach religion again, which we discussed, or like even though they purchase a curriculum, whether it's a CAP system, which is compulsory, or they introduce another to their own home environment, they're going to be stifled. So there was like a whole uproar on that as well. But I think you've really like calmed me, and the listeners as well, I'm sure, would be really, really at ease knowing that it doesn't affect the curriculum. And a lot of other things which we've discussed prior to this,
Yes.
you mentioned,
Yes.
was not even in the bill.
Yes.
That people were saying,
Or
is
just
the Bella Bill, is the,
fear-mongering.
yes,
Just
the,
fear-mongering.
which, yes. But what is your stance on the whole homeschooling?
So I think homeschooling is a wonderful tool that
Yes.
can be implemented if it's possible and practical to do so.
Yes.
I think when we went through the COVID pandemic and when all the kids were at home, we kind of got that feel of what that virtual, online, face-to-face
correct,
kind of
correct.
method of working, method of teaching was all about. And I was teaching my kids.
Yes.
And I'm not a qualified educator. And
Yeah.
I didn't know whether it was the best fit. But if I had the skill set to do so
Yes.
and follow a curriculum where my children felt safer at home to be homeschooled, by all means, I think it would work perfectly. What the homeschooling elements of the Bella Bill is
Yes.
saying is that you're allowed to homeschool your child,
Correct.
provided that you register that, or you apply to have that child registered for homeschooling. It's
Okay.
almost mandatory that every homeschool child has to be registered with the head of department. And you also then becomes prescriptive in the sense that after every kind of like your early learning phase, your pre-primary phase,
Yes,
your
yes.
senior primary phase, there is
I
a
get
accountability
that. Yeah.
to make sure that
get
what you're doing
Yes.
conforms to the
Correct.
standards that are out there.
I don't know if you watched a famous show, which I'm not sure if we can mention, on Mnet, where they caught a school that wasn't even registered, and
Yes.
parents were paying fees.
Yes.
Devi Sankri had done that interview.
Yes.
I mean, that was like really, really huge. So I get that.
Yes.
I do get that. There's so many schools that I know of now that we're talking about it, and I'm thinking, oh my word, they're not registered with government. So I
Correct.
get that.
Yes.
So there you go, moms. You just have to register
Yes.
your kid, and then you can continue
And
with
then
your
the fear,
homeschooling.
I think where the fear-mongering part of it comes in is that the Bella Bill prescribes that an official from a committee or the department can come home and inspect your home. Now, you know what it might feel like if somebody's coming to
Yes.
question you whether
Yeah.
your method of living, your method of educating is the correct fit. Now, like I said, this is now a bill. It's not
Yes.
even, it's not legislation as yet. It's still going to go through the provincial kind of passing, and then the president will then have to then obviously then write it into law or sign it into law. What then happens with legislation is that it then has to almost like roll out and kind of like filter and ebb
Yes.
around and kind of settle in, and practically it needs to work. And when we find all of the different gray areas that are coming up, you're going to have complaints to the department, you're going to have case law that's now testable. Now, this is what happens with legislation and how it progresses. That you have situations that there is an enactment or there's a piece of legislation that doesn't seem to work. People then fight about it or complain about it, and then we then start changing the legislation.
Yeah.
Now, remember, there's aspects of the bill which is also very now have been transformed to protect our children. Corporal punishment is now abolished completely in terms of the Bella Bill, which means that your
So what
child,
would be the punishment or if a school or a principal or any institution is found doing corporal punishment?
So it's misconduct immediately, and that school will then also be held accountable to the heads of department to complain in terms of misconduct.
I
Now,
love that.
corporate punishment is on the one hand, but also misconduct of children.
Correct.
Violence in our schools is something that we're seeing all the time.
Yes.
You and I can almost on any day open up our social media and see a video taken by amateur students with class disruptions, class violence, kids getting to school with guns, drugs, knives, and then obviously creating bullies.
It's sad.
Now the act also is going to protect that. So as much as we also
we hope. I mean, honestly, I mean, it's all, as you said, it all sounds so great, and I'm really hoping that the good parts of it do go through, and that we are at ease. But really, government schools in South Africa, it's sad. I mean, the high school itself, there's a high school down from where I live. It's a public high school, and the sheer disrespect that these kids have for their teachers, it's astounding.
No, definitely very sad to see that. That children were not being held accountable before in terms of the current Schools Act. But what the Bella Bill would try to achieve is that to hold that learner accountable immediately for the conduct that he or she displays at the school environment.
And I think that's where the fear comes in to place your kid in the government school, is that there are these kids that are coming in with knives and guns and drugs.
Yes.
So where do you draw the line,
Correct.
And I know that some private schools, my son's school, you have to sign to say your kid is, they're allowed to take a blood test for your kid randomly to see if your kid is in any time taking any form of narcotics.
Correct.
So now I don't know if government schools can do that, but they should form some sort of, like, as you said, mandatory.
Bella speaks exactly to that.
Right.
So what Bella is saying is that if there's reasonable suspicion that an individual learner, remember there was an uproar that if you test one child, you must test the entire class, and that created a lot of debate because people felt victimized.
Yes.
The Bella Bill now goes on to say that if there's reasonable belief that an individual learner is carrying narcotics, is under the influence, is carrying weapons, that he can be almost like singled out alone, and then he'd be tested. So it's not now, well, if you basically want to test my child, test the entire class as well. If there's reasonable belief that that child is going to be bringing in narcotics, alcohol, or if he's going to be bringing in weapons, that he is dealt with in his individual space. So the misconduct in terms of accountability of children is also raised.
I just hope that with this, I mean, we find in our country when there's change, there's violence. I mean, we've had looting, the DSW at the moment. Look at Durban. It's crazy. You drive around and you think, am I in where? Is this really Durban? Because there's dirt everywhere. I'm just afraid that now with this change, there's going to be like, again, marching and not,
correct.
All of that.
I think the fear is that, fine, like I said, policy looks wonderful on paper.
Yes.
It speaks beautiful language and it appears that it's actually going to be progressive. But the actual practical application, can you imagine that 30 days from enactment of this legislation, every single public school in South Africa, I don't know the numbers, but every single public school in South Africa will then submit a language policy, an admission policy, a code of conduct.
Ain't gonna happen.
Who is going to be receiving those emails?
So has the Bella Bill been passed yet? Or
no, it hasn't.
Okay.
It's still at, I think this month, which is March 2024, is the last round of hearings. And it's still sitting at the provincial level for the provincial, different departments to approve it. Once it passes the provisional stage, then it will go to the president for enactment. But I don't know whether the interim phase where it's going to be sitting with the provincial level is going to be extended, or how long it's going to sit there.
Okay.
It's still early days, but like I said, it's a bill, so it's not law or an act as yet.
Okay.
It's something that the president will still have to sign off eventually.
And now with elections coming up,
and now we're going into elections, so it might get a little bit pushed towards the end of the year.
Yes.
Or look at the medical bill with the NHI. That happened quite quickly.
Yeah.
And before you knew it, it became something that is real.
Yeah, it did. That was very quick.
Very quick.
But there you go, ladies and gentlemen. This is Atisha Ghela really, really educating us. And honestly, I think this Bella Bill, we have just 20 minutes. And there's so much to
Yes.
it, and we don't want to like scram everything into one.
Definitely.
We just took out some key points here and there, and of course the ones that parents were like so concerned about, which was the governing bodies, the failure to send kids in grade R,
Yes.
parents being jailed.
Yes.
I mean, I think just the word jailed, and that's your kid that you've had, and now someone else is going to jail you.
Definitely.
That just created like alarm bells.
Well, it puts accountability to the parent and the teachers, right?
Yeah.
That you've got to act appropriately. You've got to ensure that your child acts appropriately. And then it's not that the first sanction is jail. There is a level of kind of fines. You have to be found guilty. Then you'll have
Correct.
to obviously have the option of a fine or jail. It doesn't mean that you go straight to jail, do not collect 200 rand when you pass begin. It's not
It's
that
not
kind
as
of
cut, yes, of
it's not
course,
that kind
yeah.
of scenario.
But I think as of course, you being a lawyer, you know those kind of stages.
Yes.
Hence, we hired the lawyers to do that. We as just lame moms or lame men, as you, not that
Yes.
we lame in any way. No,
No.
we're superwoman. We are
Yes.
superwoman. But just that we obviously don't know the legal terms and the
Correct.
legalities behind all
Correct.
of that. So now that we do, and we're a little bit more educated, there you go. We've sliced off a huge chunk of the Bella Bill thanks to Atisha Ghela. And you guys, we hope that you continue listening to Slice of Life. We hope that Atisha Ghela will be back again and again to discuss lots of key issues.
Yes.
And thank you so much for accepting this invite and coming through, educating us and filling us. What would you like to conclude with?
I said thank you for having me, and I think maybe we must redo this conversation in a few months when the bill is passed.
Yes.
And let's just see how it's practically working in the environment, and then let's just have a look at how it is actually operating. Look, we hope for things to be moving smoothly. We hope for South Africa to progress to a global standard in all different facets of our structures. But it's important to also just separate the fear mongering and listen to facts. It's a fact-based legislation. The fear-mongering part of it and the interpretation of it is very individualized.
Yes.
So I think maybe
Yes.
reach out to people who are skilled in reading the facts.
Yeah.
And also don't just feed into the community that, obviously is believing on the misleading elements of it.
I so agree. And when you mentioned that to me, it was like a light bulb moment for me, because I felt like, what did I believe, and when you explained everything to me, it really, really opened up. Like, there's obviously pros and cons to everything.
Absolutely.
And as parents, I mean, it's up to you to decide what is best for yourself. But now that you're educated, thanks to Atisha Ghela, I think that we have so much more information, and our minds have been opened up. And that's it, you guys, for this podcast. It was really serious and whatever, but we have a little game for Atisha, and it's called Blindfold Test. And are you game to do that with us?
Geez, can I read the terms and conditions first?
Oh, there we go. So what we're doing is we're going to blindfold Atisha, and we're going to make her taste absolutely decadent something, and she's going to guess the ingredients, and then she's going to be totally mind blown.
I'm an absolute foodie.
Oh, yay!
I'm an absolute foodie, and my pet passion is food.
Wow, this is good food for your gut, but absolutely decadent. So we're really excited to see what you think it is, and what it tastes like, and all of that.
Go.
So here we go.
Just to let you know, I can't see anything. Okay.
Okay, so Atisha's blindfolded, you guys, and she's trying out something absolutely decadent, and she's going to guess the ingredients inside. So there you go.
The ingredients. So far, it feels like something which is a muffin or a brownie.
It's a muffin.
It's a muffin.
Yes.
Can I just break a piece off?
Sure. So she's got that right, you guys. It's a muffin.
See, I do bake at home, right?
Perfect. Don't worry about messing. We'll sort that out.
Chocolate.
Correct. So it's a health muffin. It's vegan. It's gluten-free. It has no refined sugar. So what is the sweetness in it?
Is there maybe dates?
No.
No dates?
No.
Really?
So the hidden veg in this is actually sweet potato and pumpkin.
No way.
Yes, and this is amazing for kids, you guys. It's from a company called Naturally Sugared, and my kids love it because they don't even know they're eating hidden veg.
I would never have guessed that it was
good for your
veg.
gut because there's no wheat in it, and there's no refined sugars.
Oh, this is wonderful. Thank you.
Perfect. So, and the next one.
There's
next
more goodies?
Yes, there's just one more. You can. I'll break a piece so that it's easier for you. You can just taste that.
Okay, so this feels like a bit of like a biscuity base.
Yes. So it's a biscuit as well. And it is also gluten-free and no refined sugars in it.
There's oats.
Yes. So it is gluten-free oats.
Does it have a bit of elaichi in it?
Yes. Oh my word. Love it. You're definitely a foodie. Definitely a foodie. Yes.
Barfi is my favorite sweetmeat.
Yes.
So I can always taste elaichi.
Oh
in
wow.
something.
So it's actually it's such a decadent cookie. It's like a crunchy. It has Lindt dark chocolate on it, and you guessed the key ingredient, which was elaichi.
Oh, this is divine.
Yes.
Can I have more?
Yes, sure. We have a goodie bag for you. So perfect.
Oh yum! Oh, that's wonderful.
This is
delicious.
also great for your gut because there's one more hidden ingredient in it.
Something for the gut.
Yes.
So okay, I give up.
Flax seeds.
Flax seeds.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. That's amazing for the skin and the gut.
Yes, perfect. But thank you for being such a sport. And as we said, this is available by Naturally Sugared. And thank you for accepting this invite, tasting all our goodies, being such a sport. Yes. Let me help you.
Well, thank you for having me and for treating me to those goodies. This is amazing.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Well done. Yeah.
So tell me, Atisha, what is your opinion on the chocolate muffin?
I think it's something that's going to be definitely good for me and the kids. And obviously, we're looking for healthy options.
Yeah.
We're looking for alternatives in terms of taste, sugar,
Yes.
etc. And if there are options out there, and I think people will be able to take it up. I'm
Yes.
especially looking for options which is got less refined sugar.
Yes.
Healthy options to put into meals where the
Lovely.
kids know that it's there but not actually there.
Yes.
And that they're actually getting all the
Yeah.
nutrients as best as possible. And this would be perfect if you popped one in their school lunch boxes,
Yes,
eh?
yes. The school doesn't mind because obviously it's hidden veg and there's no refined sugars and all of that. This is one of my favorites because it's like at night when you're having a cup of rooibos or whatever
What a
and you
treat.
feel like having
It's an absolute
something.
treat, yes.
It's a treat. What's great also is that when you do purchase it, all of your macros at the back of the,
The label, yes.
So you know exactly how much carbs and macros, all of that, behind each thing. But thank you for being such a sport, tasting, and you are definitely a foodie.
I'm definitely
so
coming back.
I'm definitely going to
Because
be
if I get
inviting
more
you to the
goods-
next foodie event. She's a
Thank
foodie,
you.
complete foodie. But thank you so much for coming. And that was Slice of Life. And we're wrapping up. And you guys catch us on Spotify.